let's get into your performance. And I think when you're saying going around and capturing these recordings is part of the process of making the performance. It sounds like this wasn't the example. And by the way, I hope this is interesting to everybody else. It's deeply interesting to me. My professor, my grandfather, I never met, passed away before I was born, was a college professor in speech and theater. And there's an unreached part of my soul that is spoken to by the way you have spent your life and what you do. So I am curious about it and fascinated by it and appreciate it very much. It sounds like in your building up to this performance, it was very much not like the William Morris audition where you get a few seconds, or even not just like the 6 months you were talking about for theater, but this has been something that has been years in the making.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, you had originally asked me where the crossover was. I mean, you asked me the big question at the beginning,
Yeah.
and I only digressed into like 3 or 4 tangents. But
Yeah.
from dialects to politics, I think it was a very natural transition, because when you go out searching for esoteric phonemes, you're going to find esoteric points of view. My first title for my first one-woman show was not Freedom of Speech. It was I'm Not Weird, American Perspectives, because everyone thought I would think that they were weird, and I could not find a mainstream America to save my life. No one thought they were part of the mainstream. Everyone felt marginalized, disenfranchised, as though their voice and their vote didn't count. And the pivotal moment was in 2004. I had just done Freedom of Speech at the Fringe Festival, and it won Best Solo Show. It was all very exciting. And, I was being courted by Broadway directors, and one of them, who directed John Leguizamo's Freak, was trying to sort of rewrite these verbatim transcriptions of human beings, like my guy from the reservation where I grew up, Jack Hart, who said, art might be the thing that brings the world together, and this money system's all gonna come crashing down sooner or later, and all these great things to say, and very prescient. This is 30 years ago, and he like wrote all these like fried beaver jokes, like Mad TV caricatures, and I was just like, if I have to sell out to this extent in order to take my play to the next level, I quit. And so I quit acting, and I dropped out. I joined the Kerry campaign in New York, and I started raising money on the street to go to Ohio and try to help get all the 250,000 registered voters to the polls in Columbus, which was the pivotal precinct in the pivotal state, swing state. And I witnessed this systemic disenfranchisement of the African American community and all the poor people in Columbus. And I stuck around afterwards when the mainstream media took off and Kerry conceded, and we all knew that there were 150,000 provisional ballots still uncounted, and we were around there and on the streets, and I went to the community public hearings, which I just found my mini discs of, and recorded people and tried to get their voices heard. So that the plays, the one-person shows, have always been, using this kind of dog and pony trick of, doing my different voices, doing things like that, to get attention for unsung voices, people who just are not currently part of the conversation and need to be, and just to kind of January 6th was chosen to steer the public conversation away from this vocal minority of billionaire followers and toward the question, what kind of a revolution do the American people really want and need? And do our votes count? Like, it always bothers me when I hear people advocating for their guy, because my mom's an attorney. My mom's a legal aid attorney, and that's why I grew up on a Chippewa reservation. She was what they called Indian law attorney at the time. And an attorney is trained to be able to argue either side, right? Like, and I feel like I should be able to argue either side. So when I hear somebody saying our guy won and this system is flawed, I want to ask, okay, is the system flawed? Let's ask just that one question. It's not about our guy won or your guy won. It's about, do we have open, free, fair elections? Does your vote count? And I think Oregon does it really well. But Jesse Jackson, back when I was interviewing him in 2004, was saying we have 50 separate unequal election systems, 50 state separate unequal election systems. And he was like, in Florida you don't have to register. And even in Ohio, in that one precinct, one of their football strategies was to divert traffic by changing the laws up to within a week of voting where you were supposed to go, whether you were supposed to go where you were registered or where you live, which of course only affects people who move a lot or who are in apartments or who have been evicted or and so the one voter that I was trying to get to the polls, his vote ended up not being counted because he went to the wrong place because they changed the law 4 days earlier, because Blackwell was the head of the Bush-Cheney reelection campaign and the president of the Board of Elections.
And you realized then
Yeah.
that you didn't want to give up.
I didn't want to give up. Well, I ended up writing that play, Sounds of Silence, a documentary puppet musical farce about the 2004 elections in Ohio, because sock puppets with the original recordings of the Democratic challengers and all the people, these kind of Dadaist, absurdist characters who were rearranging the laws and moving things around to make it just nearly impossible to actually vote that day. They needed sock puppets to get their point across, in my opinion.